Hello, my name's Linda and I'm from Healing from Complex Ptsd. G'day everybody. I posted Ask Me a Question up on the Instagram stories and we've got a couple of questions, so I thought I'd duck by and answer the questions for you late on a Sunday night down under, so hopefully you can get a good start to the week. Okay, let's see if I can just pop these questions up for you so that you can, okay, here we go. No, it didn't come up. Somehow the questions were supposed to come up from you, but I can basically remember them. So here's the questions. The first question was, what's the hardest thing? Actually, I will just pull it up on the screen for you because it's important to be absolutely accurate for you. And I know that it's hard when we're doing complex PTSD recovery to sometimes know where we're going, what's happening, what are the elements that are buying into, what do I next need to know, and so on and so forth. Okay, now, so what's been the hardest part of my recovery? What's the hardest thing to do during recovery? The hardest thing has been being consistent, and I'll explain why. When we've got complex PTSD and it impacts everything from the brain down, okay? So when you look at your brain like an athlete, so an athlete, in order to be at peak performance, has several elements that come into play. So when it's that, they have to eat well, they have to exercise well, they have to train how to move their body, they have to train their brain in order to respond quickly. And so when we look at our brain as this mega computer that got hardwired in an unhealthy way, then being consistent becomes a challenge, because we're an adult and we want to live our life in a certain way with certain steps, and then what happens is all these stored memories, sensory information in the amygdala, okay, it's like this little storehouse in our brain, that when it collects all the information, and when we have collated it ourselves so we can wrap our mind around it, it actually gets filed away in the hippocampus, okay? So when it gets filed away in the hippocampus, it then becomes a memory that we can access. So if I said to you, think of one of the most favourite memories you had, something that made you feel good, a place you went to, what makes you feel good, or what happened for you that you can remember, and as you remember that memory that made you feel good, all of your senses light up. And if you're at, say, Disneyland or a theme park, all of a sudden you can remember how it smelt that day, how it felt, what you were thinking, what you were touching. It comes alive and you tell a story about that particular day and what happened for you. Okay, does that make sense? And that's because it's all filed away in the hippocampus. But for us with complex PTSD, it's not filed away in the hippocampus. It's actually here in the amygdala, in the center of our brain, and anything unknown to us can trigger us. So being consistent means that I have to do a lot of internal work to see why I can't, for example, why can't I get up and go to gym today like I normally do, okay? So that's a simple one. And then the harder ones, oh, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry, gang. A harder one would be, you know, when you actually can't get up and move out of the bed, or excuse me, or you've been bedridden for a long time like I was, then we want to be able to get into what are the different elements that are stopping that from happening. So it's not us, it can be driven by unprocessed memories in the amygdala. It can be driven by what's happening back in the primitive part of the brain, how we were wired in childhood. So it's never just one thing. So yeah, consistency is something we aim for, and we hope that we're able to keep being consistent by addressing whatever issues come up. I was also asked, what's the one book that's had the greatest impact on me during my recovery? And I'd say that comes in 3 books, but for 3 different stages of recovery. So one of the books that had the biggest impact on me whilst I was in recovery at the stage where I'd lost everything and had to regain a lot of my life without knowing what was going on, was Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score, because it explains what was happening in the brain. And because of that, then I was able to develop effective skill sets, effective strategies, effective structures to overcome what my brain, both unconscious, the primitive brain, what the amygdala, what everything's been driving. And then that led to me being able to be more consistent, being able to do more work, being able to get on in life as an adult and do the things that I want to do without the complex PTSD taking me backwards all the time. So one of the messages I got from someone was that they found that they'd been 2 years and they've come full circle and they're back at the same spot. Now, if that's happened for you, then we need to start looking at structural dissociation. Structural dissociation is absolutely critical to be addressed with complex PTSD, because if it's not, we can't regain our ability to put even our day-to-day life in order. We can't regain our ability to function increasingly more fully, okay? And let's face it, we want those things. We want our life back. We want our health back. We want our mental health processes to be effective, to be really, really effective. So that was the book that helped me at the end processes and really gave me this deep understanding. Pete Walker's book, From Survivor to Thriver, helped understand a set of processes, more so on the emotional side. So that was a good book as well. So it's not just one book, because complex PTSD is called complex because there's so many factors that come into the recovery process as well. And when all the adverse childhood experiences were happening, there were so many things that compiled together cause complex PTSD that you can't just say, oh, what's one thing, let's go there. It's not like just having one disease where you go, okay, I've got cancer, and I've had relatives who've passed away with cancer, so I'm not being disrespectful. Okay, I've got cancer, I've got this type of cancer, and the known treatment at this time for cancer is this, okay? And the beauty is with cancer treatments, they are absolutely evolving all the time. However, with complex PTSD, it doesn't work like that, because whilst we can do it in certain ways that are highly effective, it's still, everybody got impacted differently. So everybody has a different need at a different time. So you can't just go, well, here's your plan of action and that's that, because it won't work like that way at all. And somebody else sent me in a beautiful message saying thank you for the newsfeed on Instagram, because they go there when they know it's tough and they know that they can heal. And I want to encourage you wholeheartedly that you can heal. Scientists used to think that the brain was not plastic, okay, so that once your brain had formed, so around 27 years of age is when they consider that, right, it's done, it's grown, it's there. So they didn't understand that the brain was plastic, which means that we can create new neural pathways, we can create new habits, we can create new ways through life that help us overcome complex PTSD, okay? So it doesn't have to be the ruler of our life. It doesn't have to be the thing that takes our health away. But we do have to do an extremely bucket loads of trying to be consistent work individually, okay? I think that was the questions for today. Just if I could get them up on my computer for you, I would. But yeah, I think that's it. Unless, you know, you're here and you've got a question. If you've got a question about complex PTSD and even about where you're at on your journey and how it's impacting you now, please feel welcome to ask, because I'm always happy to help. I understand how hard it is to say, right, this is where I'm at. What do I need at this point in time? And as I said, we're also different and we have different needs at different times. One of the things that I needed, this is before I even knew what was wrong with me, was overcoming the anxiety that I had. And it seemed so cruel to me because I would go out and do something new and I'd end up in a flipping meltdown. I'd be standing there talking to someone and all of a sudden I had perspiration just flowing from my face, and I'm in an air-conditioned, you know, big event centre, and they're looking at me like, what's wrong? And I'm like trying to cover it up because it's just really, really hard when that happens, because it's a bodily response and it's coming from the brain as well. And there's nothing I could do to stop it. But what I did keep doing was going out and keep exposing my brain to new situations, going into new circumstances where there were people that I didn't know, until eventually I was able to stop being triggered by outside circumstances in that way, okay? But then the anxiety changed up after that. So it's never just, oh, cure the anxiety and that's it. It's like, okay, I fixed that one side of the anxiety, then I have to go and discover what's the next thing that I need to learn. Okay, I want to thank you all for joining in and for asking questions, and honestly feel free to ask any questions that you have either on this video or down below in any of the memes, because I will find it and I'm always more than happy to answer, because I do understand just how hard it is to break free and to have effective recovery. Okay, bye for now.